Good morning. Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus for our online Sunday service this Memorial Day weekend. I'm the Reverend Dr. Marian Stewart. It is my pleasure to serve this congregation as senior minister. You'll notice we have a lot of flowers today. Sue Fonlacher does an amazing job with flowers, and today our flowers were also supplemented by Deborah Boyd and Mark Merchant. Bill Merchant, Mark's father, his funeral was on Friday, and these flowers are from his service. So condolences, sympathies, and gratitude to the Boyd and Merchant family. This morning, we're going to cover a lot of topics on this Memorial Day. Some of the things that we will get into are a bit heavy, but yet we have moments of celebration. You might say, as a Southerner, that some of our topics today will be matters of inconvenient history, but how we will also go into how we as First U viewers are helping to address those. We'll also have a wonderful choir video that was put together, and it's the grand unveiling of this video. I hope you enjoy today's service. But before we begin, we have to acknowledge the land on which we gather and live. It has been inhabited for thousands of years, and Indigenous people continue to live in Central Ohio today. But we know that some of the names who preceded us, the Adena, the Hopewell, the Wyandotte, the Miami, the Seneca, the Cayuga, all these in 1830 were Native peoples who were pushed to lands west of the Mississippi. And now, here we are, difficult to imagine what happened then and how to merge that into our life today. But that's one of the areas where we seek to find justice, to find learning, and to find healing. As we hold all of this, I invite you to take a deep breath, center, and listen to this morning's prelude.
Thank you so much, Nathan, for that piece entitled 2020 Riots, How Many Times? It's a song that was written shortly after the death of George Floyd by Tremaine Neverson, an African-American singer and songwriter. So thank you for bringing that to us, Nathan. And good morning, everybody. My name is Kelly McNeil, and I serve as the Director of Congregational Life here at First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus. It is so very good to be with you on this Memorial Day weekend. If you are visiting with us this morning, welcome. Please let us know that you are here by filling out the visitors form on our website, and you can find a link to that in the chat box. To subscribe to our email newsletter and announcements, you can fill out the connections form on our website or email me to be added. And in honor of Memorial Day, we would like to lift up all of our loved ones who lost their lives in service to this country. If you would like to, please put their names in the chat box and we will read them aloud during the caring meditation. And our opening hymn this morning is number 95, There Is More Love Somewhere. This is an African American song named for Stephen Bantu Biko, a Black South African activist and founder of the South African Students Organization. Biko was beaten to death by police, and this song was written to honor his life and his work. Please join me in singing.
I'm Amanda Hayes, your Justice Coordinator. And now, if you have a chalice or candle, I invite you to get it so we can light our chalices together. Our chalice lighting is an excerpt from Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson. In a world without caste, being male or female, light or dark, immigrant or native born, would have no bearing on what anyone was perceived as being capable of. We would join forces with Indigenous people around the world, raising alarm as fires rage and glaciers melt. We would see that when others suffer, the collective human body is set back from the progression of our species. A world without caste would set everyone free.
I invite you now to light your chalice. Our chalice is lit. This morning, there are no Sunday school classes due to the holiday weekend. Enjoy your weekend. For more information on programs for our children, youth, and families, please email our Director of Religious Exploration, Amber Scott. Junior and senior high youth, ages 12 to 19 years old, are invited to a socially distanced summer kickoff campfire at the church this Tuesday, June 1st, from 7 to 9 p.m. Please contact Amber to RSVP. We will be recognizing our church's graduating seniors and a bridging ceremony as a part of next Sunday's service, June 6th. Please email Amber with your graduates' information by noon this Friday, June 4th, to be included. Thank you for your help in recognizing these big life transitions for our young people. For today's story, inaugural poet and National Youth Poet Laureate Amanda Gorman reads her poem, Talking Gets Us There. Video is produced by PBS Kids.
Writing poetry is my favorite way to use my own voice. This is a poem I wrote called Talking Gets Us There. It's normal to notice what makes us different, because what makes us different is what makes each of us so special. There's beauty in every type of face and in every type of freckle. From the curl of your hair to the color of your skin, no one is exactly the same, not even twins. But across time and place, people have been treated unfairly just because of their race. So heroes get into good trouble. They have to struggle for a long while, but when they win, it's worth every mile. People of color still experience racism today. So it's up to all of us to say enough is enough, to speak out with all our hearts. And that starts at home. It starts with asking questions about race when we're taught about it. Together, I know we can tackle racism. But first, we have to talk about it.
Wow. Indeed, we have to talk about it. Thank you. I'm Ron Payne. I'm a relatively new member of First UU, and it's my honor today to bring the caring meditation later.
Back, sliding door.
Thank you, Ron. I get to do the first reflection today in our series of reflections. Thank you for joining us. 3 years after the end of World War II, just as the world was returning to peace and amid growing prosperity, Dick Rowland, a 19-year-old black shoeshiner, was accused of assaulting Sarah Page, a 17-year-old white elevator operator. The young man was arrested, and rumors had it that he was going to be lynched. Black men, about 75 in number, showed up to protest and demand that Rowland not be lynched. The sheriff assured the crowd that he would not be lynched, and they began to leave. But white men also gathered and surrounded, and the story goes that one of them tried to disarm one of the black men. A shot was fired, and according to the sheriff, all hell broke loose. Thus began the Tulsa Race Massacre. Within 2 days, Black Wall Street, the wealthiest black community in the whole of the United States, had been destroyed. Dozens dead, 10,000 black people were left homeless, and property damage amounted to more than $15 million, which in today's dollars is $1.5 million. They also lost $750,000 in personal property. This happened 100 years ago. Local, state, and national history books never mentioned it. 1 year ago, a black man was killed for allegedly passing a counterfeit $20 bill. Police officer Derek Chauvin was found guilty of murder after kneeling on the neck of George Floyd for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. 99 years, almost to the day, have passed since the Tulsa Race Massacre, and not much has changed, except it had. A teenage witness pulled out her cell phone and videotaped George Floyd's murder. History couldn't quite keep quiet this time. It was recorded, and millions saw it around the world. On this Memorial Day, when we honor those who died defending our country, it would be good to also remember that of these events as well. The country, our country, that countless people in the armed forces gave their lives to defend, had its own battles over who got the right to call themselves Americans. The United States has a complicated history. You might say that it has multiple histories overlaid yet intertwined. It is known that the victors get to write the history books, but sooner or later, you cannot keep genocides, enslavements, lynchings, and murder hidden. You might say our historical veil has been shredded. There's a lot of work to do to uncover not just our local and national history, but also our personal histories. Who are we? What is our place in this history? This history of old and the history that is being made now. Opening our eyes and ears and hearts and minds to the very real realities of people of color and other marginalized groups. White people are left with a lot of work to do. One of the ways to do this is to learn. This spring, Reverend Kendall Gibbons of All Souls, Senior Minister of All Souls Church in Kansas City, and I co-facilitated a study group. About 24 members of our congregations joined us as we read and discussed Isabel Wilkerson's book, Caste: The Origins of Our Discontent. I highly recommend you reading it as well. Wilkerson broke down the differences between race, class, and caste, a fascinating and disturbing read. It was also deeply moving. This morning's service will highlight some lessons learned in the class, along with how racism and white supremacy culture shows up here in our fine state of Ohio. I hope you listen, learn, and begin your own search for truth, meaning, and action. This morning, we will also thread each of our reflections with a song. We are a gentle, angry people. I invite you now to sing the first verse.
Gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
I am Fujio Hayashi, a longtime member of First UU Church of Columbus, Ohio. I am one of few members of the church who is not white. I am also one of the few members in the church who is an immigrant and for whom English is not a native language. I took part in the group book discussion Caste. I was able to share my few experiences that I faced regarding prejudice and discrimination with our book group. I found the book to be useful in providing a framework for discussing racial and similar discrimination and prejudice. Some of the discrimination practices can be better understood if the caste system, which the book describes in details, are taken into account. The book describes how Europeans became something they had never been. They went from being Czech or Hungarian or Polish to white, a political designation that only has meaning when set against something not white. No one was white before she came to America. I felt the same way about being Asian. No Japanese person in Japan views himself as being Asian. Only when I came to the US did I become an Asian. The participants of the book discussion group exchanged valuable insights and memorable experiences related to the caste system as described by the book.
We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
Hello, my name is Linda Smith, and I'm the chair of your Justice Action Ministry. The book Caste is filled with stories that illustrate the ways our country embodies the concepts of caste, race, and ethnicity. Discussing it with fellow UUs helped me clarify how white supremacy is manifest in our culture. Untangling these knotty constructs is complicated. Reading Caste was hard because it exposes many examples of trauma and aggressions inflicted on African Americans. But also, it's inspiring because it revealed many examples of honesty and right relations. I'm grateful our church is a safe place for these difficult conversations. I'm grateful to be in a community looking beneath racial resentment. I think the work asked of white readers of Caste is to learn to be more fully human, to be liberated from dehumanizing images and stereotypes. As I did some self-examination, I learned once again the breadth of what it means to be human in all our personal beauty and grief, vulnerability and dignity. I was learning to be anti-racist. Caste taught me that conflict avoidance sustains the delusions and the grip of white supremacy. Creative conflict engagement is rather more healing. Finally, after reading Caste, the ideas of multicultural and multiracial became deeply compelling. By reimagining the standards by which we live, a community can emerge in which dread is transformed into compassion. Thank you.
We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
Last Tuesday marked 1 year since the
We're having some video troubles, but please listen to Jan as she speaks and reflects.
Last Tuesday marked 1 year since the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis by police. Outrage spread and was expressed in protests in cities in the U.S. and across the globe, including here in Columbus. Because of this racial awakening, combined with the election of Joe Biden to the presidency, state houses have begun an assault on our rights. Under attack are our rights to free speech, our right to vote, and our right to fair representation. This is happening right now in the Ohio State House, and this is white supremacy in action. First are 3, down from 4, anti-free speech, anti-protest bills. These bills are vague, they're confusing, they're complex, and they pose the risk that any of us, for any reason, could be charged with felonies, put in jail, and fined for showing up to protests. One bill even threatens nonprofits like First UU with penalties if we organize or advertise protests. Next is voter suppression. House Bill 294 contains some good ideas. However, it also includes some very bad ideas, including new ID requirements for absentee ballots, restrictions on ballot drop boxes, shortening the absentee ballot request window, and cutting early voting hours, among others. Thirdly, our attempts to throw out the bipartisan redistricting reforms that were passed by Ohio voters in 2015 and 2018. Redistricting is about taking the map of Ohio and drawing new state legislative and congressional maps based upon the 2020 census. The reforms created a sharing of the map-making pencil. Ohio leaders are trying to circumvent these new rules and keep the pencil in one-party hands. These are all attempts to silence our voices and our institutionalized racism at work. For more information on these, go to the UJO and the Ohio League of Women Voters websites.
We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
As we begin to see structures of caste, white supremacy, and racism in the systems around us, it can feel overwhelming. These structures are powerful, they've been around a long time, and they take practice for many of us to even notice. If you're wondering where to even begin, I want to encourage you that as a community, we have already begun the work of dismantling white supremacy and racism together. We have a long, long way to go, but in this church year alone, we at First UU have been countering white supremacy in quite a few different ways. We've been learning about white supremacy and racism, both through the CAST book discussion group that Reverend Marian, Fujio, and Linda talked about in their reflections, through conversations on race, in which we discuss several books, including Widening the Circle of Concern, which is a report by the Unitarian Universalist Association's Commission on Institutional Change that analyzes white supremacy culture within UUism and what we can do to make UUism more inclusive. We've also been working for anti-racism and inclusion within our church. We began to form a caucus for Black, Indigenous, and people of color within our church to support one another. And we've also begun to form an anti-racist allies group for white First UUers to support Black, Indigenous, and people of color caucus and to continue our personal learning about racism and to pursue institutional anti-racism within our church. We've also worked against white supremacy and racism in our city. First UU members made signs and showed up to many protests against police violence led by People's Justice Project, BREAD, and Faith in Public Life. Multiple First UU members worked on BREAD's Police Reform Research Committee, learning about problems with policing in Columbus and identifying and pushing for solutions through the Nehemiah Action, which over 150 First UUers attended this year through the efforts of our Bread focus group. Some of these solutions include reconciliation between police and community, active bystander training within law enforcement, and a system for non-police responses to nonviolent 911 calls. Another way that we've worked against white supremacy and racism in our city is that one of our First UU families, the Macharskis, took in 2 unaccompanied minors seeking asylum who needed a safe home until they could be reunited with their mother, which will happen soon. Our racial justice and immigration focus group led us to continue providing financial and emotional support for Miriam Vargas and Edith Espinal, 2 women living in sanctuary who've been able to safely leave sanctuary this year. And that support has come through gift cards, fundraisers, and cards of support. And our racial justice and immigration focus group has also been working with People's Justice Project on researching racism as a public health crisis and what our city leadership could do about it. But the work doesn't stop there, because we've also been working against white supremacy and racism in our state. First UU members, through our Democracy and Human Rights focus group, have been working with UU Justice Ohio and planned a protest while you can against the Ohio anti-protest bills. As Jan described, these bills are directed particularly against Black organizers after the Black Lives Matters protests this summer. 3 First UUers also published letters to the editor in the Dispatch to raise awareness about these anti-protest bills. And as a result of all the advocacy of many folks against these bills, one of the anti-protest bills has been modified to remove all of the anti-protest material. What a year. I hope that hearing about the work we've done this year has encouraged you and maybe even piqued your interest. Whatever your race and wherever you are in your personal journey toward liberation, anti-racism, and inclusion, there is a place for you in this work. I'll be talking a little more later in the service about how we can deepen our work as a congregation in the coming year. I also just want to say that as I was compiling this list, which is not exhaustive by any means, I was blown away by the work that we've done together to dismantle white supremacy this year. Wow. May we celebrate all we've accomplished this year, and may we be encouraged to continue and deepen our work in the coming year. Blessed be.
We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
Thank you, Amanda, and all of our guest speakers this morning for sharing your important work and encouraging us to continue moving forward. It's so important, so thank you very much. Our church is a community of love, caring, and generosity. Together we work for a more just world. To offer our gifts and pay our promised pledges is to say, yes, we are defined by our hearts and our deeper values. Regardless of your ability to contribute, we value your presence here. Our Ohio Share the Plate recipient for May is the Charitable Pharmacy of Central Ohio. They contribute healthcare access and provide affordable pharmacy services for vulnerable members of our community. Your donation helps to extend their impact while also building a stronger church. Thank you for your generosity. And our offertory this Sunday is an African American spiritual of hope for liberation, Wade in the Water. This beautiful arrangement was created by our former beloved director of music, Tony McDonald, and performed by our choir in his memory.
Wow, choir, thank you for an incredible production, and especially for helping us remember Tony. We gather this weekend with friends and family to mark the beginning of summer with parties and with barbecues. But our caring thoughts are focused toward the significance of the weekend. The day was set apart first as Decoration Day, a day to set floral tributes on the graves of the war dead, perhaps to echo Lincoln's words at Gettysburg, that these dead shall not have died in vain.
We lift up John Bernard Johnson, the brother of Linda Smith, and all those we hold in our hearts this Memorial Day weekend.
Indeed, for the lives given up at the call of country, we lift hands in solemn thankfulness. Late in the chapter of the book in the Bible called Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, that poet pens a kind of hymn honoring the many of his community who have died, and he recounts their praise. But of others, he says, and I quote, "There is no memory. They have perished as though they had never existed, as though they had never been born," end quote. Maybe many, perhaps most, of our family tree have perished without fame or fanfare, but we remember them this holiday, for we are born of their hopes and their dreams.
We certainly are. And we have two caring cards this morning. First, Mark Merchant's father, Bill Merchant, died on Monday afternoon, May 24th. His funeral was on Friday in Pickerington. Bill had been in declining health and suffered a series of strokes. After an extended hospital stay, he entered hospice and died 1 hour after returning home. Mark's wife, Deborah Boyd, has been the primary caregiver. We also would like to wish a very happy birthday to Reverend Marian, whose birthday is on June 3rd. And here are your joys and sorrows that you've shared this morning. We have a special blessing from Jeannie R. Jeannie says, "Good morning, and let us remember those that have passed away and those in the services that fought so bravely. May your week be one that keep you safe, and may joy find you." Thank you, Jeannie.
Our pause this weekend to reflect ought to be disturbed by recalling the Tulsa Massacre. But whether death has occurred by mob or by individuals, our deepest longing, our most ardent prayer is that we be rid of the virus of racism that infects our nation's soul. Let our temple bell call us to serious meditation.
I invite you into a moment of silence as we follow the sound of our bell. I will ring it again as our service resumes.
Before we end our service, I want to leave you with some ideas about how we can deepen our work to dismantle white supremacy as a church, and how you as an individual could also get more involved if you're feeling a pull in this direction. As a church, we are working on training facilitators to be able to bring Living the Pledge to First UU, so that as many First UUers as want to can go through this accessible anti-racism training this coming year. First UU is also using our updated, more agile process to sign on as a faith community to a petition against these anti-protest and voter suppressing Ohio bills, which is really, really exciting. We're also increasing our financial investment in our justice ministry this year, and you can hear more about that at the annual meeting next week. Another possibility for us to consider is whether we want to adopt the 8th principle as a church. Kelly introduced the 8th principle in a sermon a few months ago. It reads, "We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions." Is this a commitment that we might want to make as a whole community? It's something to think about. And as an individual, if you are feeling a pull to get involved, there's also a lot of opportunities. The Democracy and Human Rights Virtual Action Hour would allow anyone who wants to spend just 1 hour this Wednesday learning and working against the anti-protest bills and more. You can also look out for opportunities in Rev Talk, Friday News, and Justice Update emails on Facebook and on the Justice tab on our website to get involved. On the Justice tab, you can find information about how to get on a focus group email announcement list so that all those opportunities come to you whenever they come up. And there's also information about how you could join a focus group if that's something that you're excited about. You could also join the Black, Indigenous, and People of Color Caucus if you are Black, Indigenous, and/or a person of color. And you could join the Anti-Racist Allies group if you are a white person who has already been through Beloved Conversations or once you go through Living the Pledge. And finally, I just want to say, please email or call me, reach out. I love talking with First UUers about their passion for justice and about how you can use your passion and your skills to contribute to our justice ministry and to contribute to anti-racism. The work of dismantling white supremacy and racism in ourselves, our church, and our society isn't easy. It's uncomfortable and confusing and painful and hard work because it's trailblazing work and it's good work, and we can do it together. Together, we are building a new way. Let's sing about that. Please join in singing, "We are building a new way."
We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. start with love that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, our world will die. My friends, our world is in need of a new way, a way free of caste, a way free of racism, a way free of white supremacy, a way of peace and freedom. May we continue working together to build this new way. May we encourage and challenge one another to build this new way. May we deepen our love and our faith as we build this new way. Blessed be.
If you have your candle or chalice lit from when we lit our chalice earlier in the service, I invite you now to extinguish it as we say our closing words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of vision. As we go forth, let us heal and transform ourselves and our world through reason and love. Our chalice is extinguished.
We have several announcements this morning. First, junior and senior high youth, ages 12 to 19 years, are invited to a socially distanced summer kickoff campfire at the church this Tuesday, June 1st from 7 to 9 p.m. Please email Amber to RSVP. You can join our Justice Action Ministry this Wednesday, June 2nd at 6 p.m. for Democracy and Human Rights Action Hour to take action on House Bill 294, voter suppression in Ohio, and Senate Bill 1, For the People Act, federal anti-voter suppression. Please email democracyandhumanrights@firstucolumbus.org for more information. The Murkowski family would like to invite the congregation to a socially distanced outdoor going away party and thank you celebration this Friday, June 4th, from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the church. They write, "We are so excited to celebrate the reunification of Kevin and Genesis with their mom, who they were separated from at the border. This experience would not have been possible without the support of our community. You have surrounded us with love and compassion, and we would like to also celebrate you. Please join us for an informal get-together outside. Feel free to stop by, stay as long as you want, and get a chance to say goodbye to our friends. Please contact Andy with any questions." We will be recognizing our church's graduating seniors in a bridging ceremony as part of the service next Sunday, June 6th. Please email Amber your graduates' information by noon this Friday, June 4th, to be included. And finally, please mark your calendars for our congregation's annual meeting, which will be held online after the service on June 6th. A quorum of voting members is needed, though all are welcome to attend and engage in this important part of our governance. You can find more information about upcoming opportunities in the chat or by joining our email list. And as always, everyone is invited to coffee hour after the service for fellowship and fun. The link will be posted in the chat and is also available in this morning's worship email. See you there.
Just wanted to give you guys some time to read all of these appreciations because it really does take a lot of people to make these services work. Today's worship service would not be possible without the time and care of many people. Thank you all. And special thanks to our choir and our choir directors for that wonderful virtual choir moment, as well as to Fujio Hayashi for his reflection, to Ron Payne for our caring meditation, and to Jan Phillips and Linda Smith for their reflections and help in planning the service. And as always, a huge thank you to our musicians, tech volunteers, and church staff for the work they do every week to bring us a vibrant and compelling service each Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan, and thank you everyone for such a meaningful service on this Memorial Day weekend. As we head into coffee hour and into the week, I have a question for you. What are your hopes for First UU's anti-racism work in the coming year? What are your hopes for First UU's work, anti-racism work, in the next year? My friends, that's a lot to think about. What would you like to do to help make this world a better place for all? I'll see you in coffee hour in a few minutes, and we will see you around at all the events that are happening. Blessed be. Have a wonderful weekend.